Hey guys, what's going on?
This
And
video
oh god,
contains
okay, pause that. And today I'm fucking up once again. If you guys remember back when I did the SCP video, I went on a rant about government secrets and all that, and I found this video on Tats' channel, the top 30 mysterious government projects. And it's probably gonna end up in my ass getting shot from watching this video. So, Tats, if you end up watching this video, man, you owe me for this. You owe me for putting myself on the line like this. Alright, let's get this over and start playing.
disturbing content. Viewer discretion advised. This topic and its resources are protected under the Fair Use Law for critical and educational purposes. They are fair use and do not violate any YouTube's policies or terms of service.
There are enough secret projects that are being talked about. It's amazing what scientists, engineers, the military, and intelligence agencies will do when they have unlimited budgets, little to no accountability, and everything they do is kept top secret.
However, there have always been failures and leaks, which the public have spotted. Government and military secrets can range from terrifying to amusing to downright absurd, but most are nothing short of intriguing. Here's a list of the top 30 mysterious government projects.
Project Twinkle. In December 1948, a new and strange phenomenon began to be observed repeatedly in the southwestern United States, in areas where top-secret nuclear weapon research was being carried out. The phenomenon consisted of bright green lights moving horizontally through the night sky, and then dropping downward slightly and going out. These became known as green fireballs. In 1950, the government succeeded in setting up an observation program called Project Twinkle to scientifically record the fireballs. The lack of sightings started declining when the project started, and was enough to end the contract. After the contract ended, there were discussions about what to do with the data and whether or not to continue observations at some low level of effort. It was decided in the late spring of 1951 not to continue the special effort, but to give the data to Project Grudge instead. After about 1 year of study, absolutely no explanation was given for the green fireball mystery.
Project Orithopter. Project Orithopter was another attempt by the CIA to mimic the animal kingdom in the development of remote-controlled aircraft. Project Orithopter involved a bird-like drone designed to blend in by flapping its wings. Another, even smaller drone was designed to look like a crow that would land on window ledges and photograph through the window what was going on inside the building. Not satisfied with mimicking Mother Nature, the CIA also used actual animals to do surveillance, including pigeons with pigeon cams attached to their necks. Unfortunately, the birds were tired out by the extra weight of the cameras and returned to the CIA base on foot, too tired to fly. The project was then abandoned.
Project Acoustic Kitty. In the 1960s, the CIA tried to train cats to be spies. This is completely true. Operation Acoustic Kitty was a $20 million secret project.
I'm sorry, but did they seriously try to train cats to be spies? How did they think that was going to work? Like, cats don't listen to orders very well. If anything I've learned from having cats, it's they don't listen to you. Never. They never listen to you. Now, if they were using dogs as spies, however, that'd be different. Dogs are more willing to listen to you than cats are. But, I'll humor the U.S. How were you guys thinking about turning cats into spies?
To implant cats with recording devices, batteries, even an antenna in the tail so they could spy on Soviet leaders. The idea was that an unassuming cat would be able to stride right up to groups of communist officials and listen in on their conversations, which it could then beam back to agents with its sophisticated radio equipment. The project was abandoned when the cats strayed too far off their target, searching for food. The project was deemed ethically appalling and was later canceled in 1967. Project Grudge. Project Grudge was a short-lived program launched in 1949 to study unidentified flying objects. The mission followed an earlier program known as Project Sign, which published a report in early 1949 stating that while some UFOs seemed to be actual aircraft, there was not enough data to determine their origins. Critics of Project Grudge said the program solely set out to debunk UFO reports, and very little actual research was conducted. It is still, however, not known if the project was canceled or if it's still alive to this very day. Project 57. This was a safety test conducted at the Nevada test site to simulate.
You know some shit's gonna be fucked up when it's just called Project 57. If it doesn't get a nice flashy name, a nice pun. If it's just Project 57, you know some shady shit's going down. Like shady shit. Fuck.
What would happen if an airplane carrying an atomic bomb crashed and released radioactive material into the environment?
I'm gonna say the plane and the bomb would explode. Not only would the radiation hurt people, but the initial blast from the nuclear bomb exploding when the plane crashed, that would also kill. So I don't see why this was a thing. What happens if we strap a nuclear bomb to a plane and the plane crashes? Well, the bomb's gonna explode. Like, there's just nothing to it. It's just gonna go and just wipe everything out. That radiation's gonna get in the air, in the water. It's gonna be pushed to different places by the wind. It's just a whole bunch of bad. Why was this even thought of? It's common sense. Bombs explode when from impacts or from detonations.
In this way, Project 57 would become America's first dirty bomb experiment. The contaminated area was initially fenced off and the contaminated equipment buried in place. In 1981, the U.S. Department of Energy decontaminated and decommissioned the site. Hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of soil and debris were removed from Area 13 and disposed of in a waste facility at the Nevada test site.
Project Pluto. 46 years ago, the United States abandoned a 7-year effort to develop a nuclear-armed supersonic cruise missile. The joint USAF program known as Project Pluto was centered around a nuclear-fueled ramjet-powered supersonic low-altitude missile, also nicknamed SLAM. The SLAM would supposedly carry a payload of many nuclear weapons to be dropped on multiple targets, making the cruise missile into an unarmed bomber. In May of 1961, the first nuclear ramjet was made, called the Tory IIA. Unfortunately, the Pentagon pulled the plug on the project, believing the weapon to be too provocative, and that it could compel the Soviets to build a similar device. The other problem they faced was there was no known defense against such a weapon, so in July 1964, the project was cancelled.
Project Teak and Project Orange. Project Teak and Project Orange were regarded to two massive 3.8 megaton nuclear devices which would be detonated in the Earth's upper atmosphere over the Johnston.
Okay, what is it with America and our government and wanting to play around with nukes? Because that's all I'm seeing so far. It's just a lot of these projects have centered around nukes. Did the government learn nothing from World War II? Do they not know what happens? Do they not know what happens when nuclear projects like this go wrong? People die. I don't get what America's fascination with nuclear weapons is. I don't get it. I really don't. Generally, we would hopefully not be interested in things that can kill us if we accidentally so much as accidentally drop the bomb. Like if two guys are carrying it, or if it's being carried by a winch, and a guy sneezes and punches or slams his head on the keyboard when he sneezes and hits the drop button, he just basically fucked everyone over because he just dropped that bomb right on its face. If bombs had its nose. But if bombs had faces, the bombs would be dropped right on their faces and it would just end up in just a... But yeah, I think our government just needs to just take a chill pill, go home, drink some whiskey or something, and relax in their nice, comfortable armchairs. And sit on a cactus. Just spread those cheeks and just ease yourself down to a cactus. You'll get the same type of experiment. And who knows? Maybe someone will enjoy it.
Tall, 750 miles west of Hawaii. Teak was exploded at 50 miles, and Orange was exploded at 28 miles in the upper atmosphere. The purpose of these tests was to give the US a measuring stick to use so as to determine if the Soviet Union did the same thing. It seems mad that such tests were green-lighted, but that was the mood of the Cold War in the 1950s and 60s.
Okay,
Test first,
fair point.
ask questions later.
Project Orion. Project Orion was a massive nuclear-powered spacecraft the size of the Empire State Building, which was fueled by atomic bombs. It had so much power, it could destroy half the planet. The idea was to take human inhabitants to Saturn should any case arise where the planet is in immediate threat. In 1963,
I'm sorry. Project Orion. Their idea was to make a spaceship powered by atomic energy and nuclear bombs. For what purpose? To take us to Saturn should shit hit the fan on Earth. Just creating that thing is shit hitting the fan. First of all, how the fuck are you going to propel something with nuclear bombs? That seems like a death trap all on its own. Like, hey, if this works, we can go to Mercury. If it fails, well, have fun getting to the bunker, little Timmy. Hope you can run in time, bitch. I don't understand. I don't understand why people...
then the United States, the Soviet Union, and Great Britain signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which forbids nuclear weapons explosions in space.
Thank you, Europe. To anyone who watches my channel that lives in Europe, thank you for creating that nuclear bomb ban thing. For not allowing that prevents us from exploding nukes in space. Thank you guys for doing that. And just, I'm sure it all went like, "Hey, America, what? Could you not do that? You know, the whole thing with the nukes, and the explosions, and the space, and the, all that." America's like, "Well, if we have to."
So before there could be any Orion prototypes using nuclear explosives, the project was abandoned in 1965. But since Orion was shut down in 1965, some have talked about a possible rebirth of the project, but using the same nuclear explosive propulsion as it was originally intended to use.
Project Nutmeg. Project Nutmeg has historical significance because it was the top secret project that gave birth to the Nevada.
More like, I guarantee you, if this thing deals with rockets, it's not going to be Project Nutmeg. It's going to be Project Bust a Nutmeg.
At a test and training range. Prior to testing atomic devices on U.S. soil, nuclear bombs were tested in the Pacific Ocean at what was called the Pacific Proving Grounds. Project Nutmeg was authorized by the president to locate such an area. An ideal location was a region of desolate desert that had been a wildlife reservation. The selected site in Nevada became 687 square miles of government-controlled land, and what we know today as the Nevada Test Site, of which Area 51 is the most well-known and most secret parcel of land.
Project Marionette. Like so much else brought to America by a bunch of Nazi scientists, the Marionette mind control methods.
Okay, the minute they said Project Marionette, I was already worried. But then the minute they said, when Nazi scientists brought experiments to the U.S., oh God, how is this gonna? I guarantee this is gonna be a very terrible, terrible project.
Became a vast and far-reaching program within the United States military-industrial complex. This type of programming appears to have been practiced and further developed in America under the auspices of the Central Intelligence Agency. After World War II, the CIA smuggled into the US German and Italian scientists and other specialists who were developing the Monarch programming. The Monarch programming is also referred to as marionette programming. A marionette is a puppet, and Nazi German psychologists were working hard at creating the perfect human puppets. The end result of all of the hard work put in by German, Italian, American, and British researchers was the creation of an almost foolproof, impossible to detect, human mind-controlled slave.
See, this is why we have so much issue with trusting the government. Motherfuckers trying to turn us into puppets. Joke's on you, motherfuckers. You are not turning me into my worst fear. No. But why? Why is that I guarantee you, it was all the Nazi, the German scientists' idea. I guarantee you it was 90% their idea. And America and Italian scientists were just like, nah, fuck it, we got nothing better to do. We've already blown up what we can. So we'll humor you. And the German scientists are probably sitting there going, good. So, here's what we're gonna do. What I find odd is, let's see, if this was done after World War II. So this was done before MKUltra. Which MKUltra was the first successful mind control. So, it wasn't a gas. I forgot how it worked. I think it was radio waves, but I think it's on this list. It may be. But, MKUltra is basically a way of mind controlling the general populace. And it worked. It controlled some of the general populace. Issue is, it caused severe mental disabilities. Like, people were left over with schizophrenia, paranoia, PTSD. It fucked people up mentally. Fucked them up. So, if there are any government officials watching this, or people who know government officials, just chill. Chill. Just go home, hang out with your family, relax on your nice sofas, have a drink. Just relax. Take a break. Not everything needs to be discovered and tested. Just go home and relax with your family. Please. And again, just spread your cheeks and ease down onto a cactus. It's really refreshing.
Project Mannequin. Project Mannequin is a program to create genetically enhanced assassins, espionage agents, and sleeper agents with PSI and psychic abilities. Most people are unaware of their part in the program because of sophisticated memory erasure procedures. The NSA is looking for people of certain bloodlines, and these are mainly people of Celtic and blue blood, aristocratic genetics. People with these genetics have a predisposition to paranormal.
The government's looking for people with Celtic roots for this mind control project to turn us into assassins that can wield psychic powers. Well, I'm fucked. I am fucked. Although, this is an experiment I could get behind. I would love to sit there and just be able to just, like, be bored, just levitate a bottle, and just throw it at the wall. This is a human experiment, you know, I'd be okay with if they did it on me, because, you know, psychic abilities is badass. It'd just be really cool to pick shit up and throw it. Or explode people's minds with your head.
Normal ability, as these cultures have practiced paranormal abilities for generations. These individuals have an Rh negative blood factor. In the 1950s, a bloodline study was started by the NSA based at Harwell Laboratories to find these children to be used in Project Mannequin. It is probable that the end goal of this Nazi mind control is to create perfect servants and slaves, as well as remorseless assassins who would then have no memory of their deeds. The evidence available on the internet and in printed form today indicates that though this program of mind control was quickly dismantled as soon as some light was shined upon it, it was just continued in some other place, in even greater secrecy.
I was all for the experiment for the psychic abilities, but then they're talking about slaves and shit, turning people into mind slaves, and at that point you lost me. Sorry. You know, if you had said we're doing an experiment to give you psychic abilities, I'd be all for it, but I like my brain and free will, so no.
Project Gold. One of the most audacious intelligence operations of the Cold War was 1953's Project Gold, which was a joint effort between the CIA and the British MI6 to hack into the phone lines of the Soviet headquarters in eastern Berlin. This required the construction of a massive 450-meter-long tunnel that would intersect with an underground telephone junction. Just preparing the tunnel took 6 months and involved a substantial amount of risk and subterfuge. But when it was done, the CIA proceeded to carefully record as many as 50,000 telephone conversations over the course of nearly a year. The problem? A mole in the British intelligence had tipped off the KGB about Operation Gold before the tunnel was even completed, and the Soviets had been feeding them fake information the entire time. In 1956, the Soviets raided the tunnel and shut it down, and the operation eventually caused a great deal of controversy for the American and British intelligence communities.
Good job, Soviets. Way to get on the ball there. Good job.
Project Sunshine. Project Sunshine was part of an effort by the Atomic Energy Commission to determine the long-term effects of radiation exposure on the human gene pool. Specifically, it had become known that above-ground nuclear tests were kind of damaging human genetics on a planet-wide scale, and the AEC wanted to know just how much was too much. The easiest way to do this was by examining the bones and teeth of those who had been exposed. Literally stealing human remains with no notice given to or consent sought from the families of the deceased. Later in the decade, pretty much the same data was gathered in a much more responsible manner by collecting and examining hundreds upon thousands of baby teeth, which one notably does not have to be dead to surrender.
Project Iceworm. In the 1960s, the U.S. Army embarked on a secret mission to build a series of mobile nuclear missile launch sites under the Greenland ice sheet. The objective was to house medium-range missiles close enough to strike targets within the Soviet Union. The program was codenamed Project Iceworm, but to test it, the Army launched a cover research project called Camp Century in 1960. Under this guise, engineers built a network of underground buildings and tunnels, including living quarters, a kitchen, a recreation hall, infirmary, laboratories, supply rooms, a communications center, and a nuclear power plant. The base, which was kept secret from the Danish government, operated for 7 years. The program was canceled in 1966 after shifting ice created unstable conditions.
Project Mockingbird. One of the most ambitious and downright insidious programs ever launched by the CIA was Project Mockingbird, a propaganda project that was implemented in the early 1950s. It was a massive undertaking that saw as many as 3,000 CIA agents and collaborators attempt to gain some control of the free press by feeding select groups of reporters information and using newspapers at home and abroad to filter the kinds of stories that got to the public. At its height, the program included writers from the New York Times, Newsweek, and Time magazine among its ranks, and was said to have a significant influence on as many as 25 major newspapers. The program had a major impact abroad.
This is why I'm anti-news and anti-magazine. Well, fuck, I guess what kind of magazines would those be considered? New York Times, Huffington Post, those kinds of magazines. What's the word for it? Bullshit magazines. How's it called? Bullshit magazines. I don't read that stuff. That stuff is frankly just all bullshit. It's stupid. It's basically telling you, guess who's making money? And it's not you. Or, who's making money? Hint, hint, it's not you. New York Times is by far the worst magazine in existence. Ugh. That and the Huffington Post. Terrible, terrible magazine. So is Maxim. Maxim is another terrible, terrible magazine. But that's more of a adult nature. Still a shitty magazine. Yeah, they're actually, I take that back. There aren't really any good magazines out anymore. Then again, magazines and newspaper are becoming obsolete. Just like radio. And inland cable phones. And just cable TV in general. Fuck. You know what? Just fuck it. Everything before 2007 is going obsolete. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Abroad as well, as it served a major function in helping to sway public opinion in the run-up to the eventual overthrowing of Guatemala's leftist president. Operation Mockingbird continued to have a major effect on worldwide media throughout the 50s, and it was not until the 60s that a series of reports by investigative journalists brought the program to light.
Project Stargate. Project Stargate is the only long-term PSI research program known to have been funded by the U.S. government, specifically the Department of Defense and different intelligence agencies such as the CIA. The project was to investigate claims of psychic phenomena with potential military and domestic applications, particularly remote viewing. The purported ability to psychically see events, sights, or information from a great distance. Remote viewing research began in 1972 at the Stanford Research Institute in Menlo Park. The effort initially focused on a few gifted individuals, such as New York artist Ingo Swann. Individuals who appeared to show potential were trained and taught to use talents for psychic warfare. The minimum accuracy needed by the clients was said to be 65%, and proponents claim that in the later stages of the training effort, this accuracy level was often consistently exceeded. After some controversy involving these experiments and alleged security violations from uncleared civilian psychics working in sensitive, compartmented information facilities, Major General Stubblebine was placed on retirement. His successor as the INCOM commander was Major General Harry Soyster, who had a reputation as a much more conservative and conventional intelligence officer. MG Soyster was not amenable to continuing paranormal experiments, and the Army's participation in Project Stargate ended during his tenure. Project Argus. In Project Argus, nuclear-tipped missiles were fired from ships for the first time as part of its project plan. On August 27th, 30th, and September 6th, 1950, nuclear warheads were shot into space by X-17 rockets from the deck of a U.S. warship anchored off of South Africa. These missiles went 300 miles out into space. The reason for these nuclear tests in outer space was that scientists theorized that exploding nuclear bombs in the Earth's magnetic field could create an electromagnetic pulse that would render incoming Russian ICBMs inoperative. Though a magnetic pulse was created by the nuclear explosions, the pulse was not large enough to have any effect on the ICBMs. The project was another dangerous and futile experiment.
Project Kempster LaCroix. In the development of America's first stealth aircraft, dubbed Oxcart, all manner of new technology was created at Area 51.
SR-71 Blackbird,
invisible to radar.
aka the X-Jet from the X-Men movies. Yeah.
Materials that would absorb radar, space-age design, and electronic countermeasures were all employed. Scientists came up with the idea of attaching two giant electron guns, one on either side of the aircraft. The guns would shoot out a 25-foot wide ion cloud of highly charged particles in front of the aircraft. The ion gas cloud would further absorb enemy radar waves coming up from the ground, providing the plane with more stealth. Researchers soon discovered the radiation given off by the guns would kill the pilot, so more engineers worked on developing an X-ray shield the pilots could wear to protect them from the radiation. But the first test pilot to wear the shield said it was too cumbersome to allow the pilots to fly the aircraft, and so Project Kempster LaCroix was then later abandoned.
Project Kiwi. On January 12, 1965, a nuclear rocket engine, codenamed Kiwi, was allowed to overheat. At a temperature of 4,000 degrees centigrade, the reactor burst, shooting radioactive fuel skyward, glowing every color of the rainbow. The explosion blew a 100-pound chunk of radioactive fuel a quarter of a mile away. The radioactive plume rose to 2,600 feet, and the wind eventually carried the radioactive cloud westward, passing over Los Angeles and out to sea. Scientists were airborne with instruments measuring the amount of radiation that was released into the atmosphere, but as of today, that data remains classified. Project 1794. In late 2012, the U.S. Air Force declassified a trove of documents, including records of a secret program to build a flying saucer-type aircraft designed to shoot down Soviet bombers. The ambitious program, called Project 1794, was initiated in the 1950s, and a team of engineers was tasked with building a disc-shaped vehicle capable of traveling at supersonic speeds at high altitudes. The declassified documents reveal plans for the plane to reach a top speed of Mach 4, which is 4 times the speed of sound, and reach an altitude of 100,000 feet, which is 30,480 meters. The project's estimated cost was more than $3 billion, which in today's money would have made it around more than $26 million. Project 1794 was cancelled in December of 1961 after tests suggested that the flying saucer design was aerodynamically unstable and would likely be uncontrollable at high speeds, let alone the supersonic speeds. Project Aqualine. This project began sometime in the late 1960s and involved some of the first remote-controlled aircraft experiments that would later become the Predator drones that are operating in the Middle East today. It was a 6-foot remote-controlled drone designed to look like an eagle or buzzard in flight. It carried a television camera in the nose, as well as sensors and electronic surveillance equipment. The project remains classified today, but a British documentary uncovered what is thought to have been the target for the Aqualine drone, a Soviet hydrofoil called Echinopian. The Aqualine drone was designed to track in on its target following established communication lines in foreign countries and be launched from a submarine. The Aqualine drone was built and tested, but the CIA eventually canceled the program.
Project Northwoods. In the early 1960s, when the Cold War was in full swing and fear of communism was rampant, a plan dubbed Project Northwoods was proposed within the American CIA. In short, it called for the government to perform a series of violent terrorist actions in U.S. cities, including bombings, hijackings, phony riots, and sabotage, all of which could then be blamed on Cuba. This would drum up support for a war against the communists and lead to an eventual military operation to remove Fidel Castro from power. The plan was drafted and signed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and presented to the President, who personally rejected it, and it was subsequently abandoned. For years, Operation Northwoods existed as a rumor, but it was finally revealed to be true when top-secret documents describing the plan were made public in 1997 as a part of a release of government papers relating to the Kennedy assassination.
I'm sorry, but sometimes I love it when people have when stuff like that happens. They're like, "Hey, remember these secret government papers you had? Yeah, we gotta release them, but why? Because we want to. Because we want to let the American people know what you're doing. But then they could stop it. Yeah, that's the point." That's why I love investigative journalism. Or I just love anyone who's got the balls to go in there and leak shit like this. To those people out there, you are a godsend. Because it's a dangerous job being a leaker, but the payout is so worth it. Yeah, it's so worth it.
Project SDI. Project SDI, which stood
That's
for
really loud.
Strategic Defense Initiative, proposed a series of space-based laser weapons that would shoot down incoming Soviet ICBMs. Billions of dollars were spent on the project between 1983 and 1993, as SDI became a subdivision of the Department of Defense. The problem isn't that it didn't work. It's that such a system was never even shown to be possible. Criticism rang far and wide despite the president's enthusiasm for the project, simply because on the surface it appeared to be exactly what it was. Obviously and transparently unscientific. A 1987 study concluded that it would take at least 10 more years of research, not to make an SDI work, but to determine if it were even feasible. This was, of course, 6 years before the plug was finally pulled on space-based laser defense.
Project DARPA Falcon. Project DARPA Falcon was a two-part joint project between the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency and the United States Air Force. One part of the program aimed to develop a reusable, rapid-strike hypersonic weapon system, which was later retitled the Hypersonic Cruise Vehicle, and the other was for the development of a launch system capable of accelerating an HCV to cruise speeds, as well as launching small satellites into Earth orbit. The two-part program was announced in 2003 and continued into 2006. The latest project to be announced under the Falcon banner was a fighter-sized unmanned aircraft called Black Swift, which would take off from a runway and accelerate to Mach 6 before completing its mission and landing again. The Black Swift HTV-3X did not receive needed funding and was cancelled in October 2008.
I'm kind of upset that it was disbanded because for an unmanned aircraft, that thing looks boss as fuck. I would love to own that and just fly that. That thing looks so well. It's unmanned, so I can't fly it. I'd love to remotely control that thing. That thing looks so fucking cool. It's like you see at a Black Ops or some shit like that.
Project Azorian. Project Azorian was a salvage mission by the US government to raise a sunken Soviet submarine that carried 3 nuclear ballistic missiles. The Golf II class submarine appeared to have sunk under mysterious circumstances, with only the description of the incident as a good-sized bang. At the time of the incident, the Soviets lacked the technology to find the sunken submarine and officially reported it as sank on March 8, 1968, with all hands reported dead. However, the Americans not only had the technology to find the sunken sub, but also had the technology to raise it. This audacious effort was carried out under the cover of an undersea mining operation sponsored by eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes, Azorian incorrectly identified as Project Jennifer by the press. However, this was not the story released to the public. Officially, the project's purpose was to extract manganese nodules from the ocean floor. The idea was that significant quantities of nickel, copper, and cobalt could be extracted from these nodules. At face value, the cover story was a good one. In the 1960s and 1970s, nearly $500 million were invested by legitimate prospective mining businesses to identify potential deposits, as well as research and development into technology for mining and processing nodules.
Project Mogul. Project Mogul was a top-secret project by the U.S. Army Air Forces, involving microphones flown on high-altitude balloons, whose primary purpose was long-distance detection of sound waves generated by Soviet atomic bomb tests. This project was top secret, where information on the project was on a strictly need-to-know basis. Most people involved in the project didn't even know the name of the project or the purpose of it. The project was carried out from 1947 until early 1949. The project was moderately successful, but was very expensive and was superseded by a network of seismic detectors and air sampling for fallout, which were cheaper, more reliable, and easier to deploy and operate. The early Mogul balloons consisted of large clusters of rubber meteorological balloons. However, these were quickly replaced by enormous balloons made of polyethylene plastic. These were more durable, leaked less helium, and also were better at maintaining a constant altitude than the early rubber balloons. Project Mogul was the forerunner of the Skyhook balloon program, which started in the late 1940s, as well as another espionage program involving overflights and photo surveillance of the Soviet Union in the early 1950s, called Project Moby Dick. The latter raised storms of protest from the Soviets. On July 8, 1947, an eager but relatively inexperienced public information officer at Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release claiming a flying disc had been recovered from its crash site on an area ranch. The next day's Roswell Daily Record described a large area of bright wreckage consisting of tinfoil, rubber strips, plastic, and other lightweight materials. Although there appears to have been no attempt to deceive, the best evidence now indicates that the device was really a skyhook balloon that had gone missing in flight from Project Mogul. One of the former Mogul project scientists identified the wreckage from photographs as a lost flight form Mogul array. The story went underground after subsequent decades and resurfaced as an incredible tale of extraterrestrial invasion and the government's attempt to cover up the awful truth. The media capitalized on the Roswell incident, and conspiracy theorists, persons with confabulated memories, outright hoaxers, and others climbed aboard the bandwagon. Soon after the incident, Area 51 was built to hide more of its mysteries. Project Rainbow. Project Rainbow is the name of one of the Philadelphia Phoenix time travel projects, or commonly known as the Philadelphia Experiment. Its purpose was to create devices that could generate time and space tunnels in order to render objects and people invisible, and to influence the weather. There's much controversy over what exactly happened. For some reason, soon after the test was completed, a massive blanket of secrecy and denial was placed over what happened in Delaware Bay. It is thought that a huge scientific breakthrough was made, and the ship was accurately transported over space and time, disappearing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and reappearing in Norfolk, Virginia. The mystery remains. It's still not known what happened that day in 1943, mainly due to the lack of eyewitnesses coming forth who served aboard the Eldridge. There's also no documentation available to the public which details Project Rainbow. How did the destroyer appear seconds later in Virginia? It's possible the answer will never be known, but the mystery may be solved when scientists rediscover what happened in Delaware Bay.
Project MKUltra. At the height of the Cold War, the CIA conducted covert, illegal scientific research on human subjects, known as Project MKUltra. The program subjected humans to experiments with drugs such as LSD, hypnosis, and radiological and biological agents. In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all documents from Project MKUltra destroyed. Nevertheless, late the following year, the New York Times reported on illegal activities. In 1975, the Church Committee, headed by Senator Franklin Church, and a commission headed by Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, investigated the project. They found that over more than 2 decades, the CIA spent nearly $20 million, enlisted the services of researchers at more than 30 universities, and conducted experiments on subjects without their knowledge. Some historians argue that the goal of the program was to create a mind control system by which the CIA could program people to conduct assassinations.
Project Harp. The High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program was funded by the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, the University of Alaska, and the Defense Advanced Research Project. Major aspects of the program were kept secret for alleged reasons of national security. Yet there was no doubt that HARP and electromagnetic weapons capable of being used in warfare did exist. According to the official HARP website, HARP was a scientific endeavor aimed at studying the properties and behaviors of the ionosphere, with particular emphasis on being able to understand and use it to enhance communications and surveillance systems for both civilian and defense purposes. The ionosphere is the delicate upper layer of our atmosphere, which ranges from about 30 miles above the surface of the Earth. The Harp website acknowledges that experiments are conducted which use electromagnetic frequencies to fire pulsed, directed energy beams in order to temporarily excite a limited area of the ionosphere. Some scientists stated that purposefully disturbing this sensitive layer could have major and even disastrous consequences. Harp was shut down in early May 2013, awaiting a change between contractors who operate the facility.
Alright guys, here we go. Number one. What could be the number one most mysterious government project? I guarantee it's something to do. It got something to do with nukes. Guarantee you. Guarantee.
Project Manhattan. One of the most
Mysterious government project number one. Project Manhattan. I fucking called it. Told you. No, it's gonna involve nuclear weapons. Project Manhattan. Boom! Called it. Should not be that excited.
well-known secret research programs is Project Manhattan, which eventually produced the world's first atomic bombs. The project began in 1939 and was cloaked in secrecy as physicists investigated the potential power of atomic weapons. From 1942 to 1945, Major General Leslie Groves of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers led the Manhattan Project. The first nuclear bomb was detonated at 5:30 a.m. on July 16, 1945, during the so-called Trinity test at the Alamo Gordo Air Base, 120 miles south of Albuquerque, New Mexico. The explosion created a mushroom cloud that stretched 40,000 feet, and the bomb's explosive power was equivalent to more than 15,000 tons of TNT. A month after the Trinity test, 2 atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan in the waning stages of World War II. To date, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki remain the only uses of nuclear weapons in war.
And that's the issue I have with World War II, is the bombings of Nagasaki and Hiroshima were so unnecessary. They were so unnecessary. And that's why I hate our government, because they pull sneaky shit like that. Stupid fuckers. Actually, I should probably not say that. I should probably not say that on a video. You know what? Fuck it. Fuck the consequences and fuck them. Fucking, it's just, if you want to... Not many things in this world piss me off, but if you want a quick way to piss me off, just say that, the bombings in World War II were necessary. That's a real quick way to get me pissed off. And most likely a punch to the jaw, chop to the throat, kick in the nut. Basically, if you want to get your ass kicked by me, make that statement, is what I'm trying to stress. And now that I ended on that such positive note, I'm going to go... Fuck, I don't know, do something else. Oh, right. Gonna go record some Subnautica for you guys. Even though I hate deep water. And I've seen screenshots of that game. If you guys enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe. Click on the link to go to Tats' channel and subscribe to their videos. As usual, I upload some point during the week. Just know that it's 4 or 6 videos a week. I record in batches, so don't expect any nice wardrobe change. fuck, I really should. That was just, that was a long fuck. I don't know. I'm just, okay, yeah, now I'm rambling. Okay, yep, video over.